Today I want to respond to, I guess it's a question, but more so a trend that I've been seeing in our practice. And that is we're getting more and more inquiries from the parents of middle school students. And it got me thinking about a lot of things, but especially about really the broad question of whether or not middle school is too early to be thinking about college. And my gut instinct is it is too early to be thinking about college specifically. But having said that and having taken some time, stepped back and thought about what is propelling these parents to reach out to us, it occurs to me that what is happening is it's this void of information that a lot of parents feel when it comes to the college process. So while in practice it is too early, I would never sit down with a seventh grader and start talking about where do you think you want to go to college and what do you see yourself doing in the next 3 years that's going to get you there. It's just going to be over their head in at least 99% of the cases, I would say. But there is value in thinking ahead, planning ahead. And really, for me, that focus is actually on the parents and helping parents understand what it is that they can be doing to help guide their middle schooler at this early stage of their education. So a couple of big picture questions to be thinking about. One is, what are they becoming more and more interested in, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom? But let's start with outside the classroom. Maybe at an early age, they're already showing some real interest in a particular activity or organization, a hobby, a sport, a musical talent, whatever the case may be. If that is true, then capitalize on that momentum and help them nurture and develop in that particular area as best they can at this stage of the game. If it changes in a couple of years and they need to refocus their energy on something else, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Every activity along the way is a learning process and gives them more information about what their strengths and their talents and their challenges are. And for you as a parent, it gives you that feedback as well. But again, if already they're showing a real interest in something, then again, try to help them learn more about it, dig into it more deeply, but also avoid the urge to overschedule them into a million different things. If they aren't necessarily really showing a particular interest in one thing or the other, it's maybe a time to just have a conversation and start asking some questions about what are some things you think you might like to check out. And at this stage of the game, like even things as like volunteerism, it can be hard to find opportunities that are age appropriate or where middle school students are even allowed to work or volunteer without adult supervision. So maybe it's a task, activity, an opportunity for you all to do something together to help expose the student, your child, to a variety of options in that area. Also, help them think of other ways they can engage. Are you involved in a church or a synagogue? Are you personally already involved in some type of volunteer work that you could expose them to? Are there things that they're curious about job-wise that they could do a little early exploration? I am not talking about internships and full-on job shadowing or anything like that. But, I worked in my parents' law firm when I was young and learned a little bit, but also just had some responsibility and sort of got a feel for what it was like to be doing actual work beyond just, being at home in the summers and things like that. So again, the goal I think really in this area of extracurricular life is just trying to help nurture them to develop interest and to expose them to possibilities when it comes to what they may ultimately find to be their true following when it comes to that. Academically, I would say the other thing we can talk about at this stage of the game is what are some course selection choices that have to be made that might impact high school? What are some things like choosing world language and math classes in particular? If your student is advanced in one of those areas, they may be given the opportunity in middle school to take a level of math or a level of world language that actually gives credit towards their high school transcript. So what does that look like? And where does that then lead them down the road? So long range academic planning is another area where it might be appropriate to have a conversation for us to help you think about what are the possibilities. And I've always said, whenever I write out an academic plan, whether that's just starting with a ninth grader and writing out a 4-year academic plan, or starting even earlier and writing it out, we write it in pencil. Used to be literally, now figuratively, but we write it in pencil because there are still things that can change. And especially with middle schoolers, we may see that they are not showing, for example, signs of really being intrigued with science. But it could just be that they haven't taken the right science class yet. They haven't been exposed to something like physics or chemistry that might really light them up later. So never do I think that what we talk about academically at this stage of the game, and even as late as ninth grade, I never think that that is always going to be the plan that we don't deviate from. But it can help as parents who don't understand or don't have prior experience going through this process. It can just help you have a little bit of a big picture idea of what to expect going into high school and beyond. And also conversations about how those curricular choices might play out in the college admissions world later. Now, granted, we're never going to know that 100% at this early stage of the game because rules of this process change from year to year. But in general, we can talk about what it looks like to have a particularly strong schedule that feels like it meets the needs of your individual child and what will give them the best possible outcomes down the road when it comes to that. Again, overall, really specific questions about searching for college, and absolutely, this is not a question that we in our practice are going to answer. Don't come to us with a 7th or 8th grader and ask us exactly what the formula is. What exactly do they need to do to get from here to there? Again, we'll talk in big picture ways about extracurricular development and academic development and guidance for how to help identify strengths and weaknesses and those kinds of things. But there is no formula. So we're not going to be able to say, if you do all of these things that we put on this checklist, it is going to result in these outcomes, because that is just not possible. But we can help shed some light on the process overall. And that's another piece of the puzzle, just for parents to know. We are actually putting together a workshop, a webinar for parents just to talk about what is the state of the world of college admissions right now. So if that is something you're interested in, I'll put information in the comments and make sure you know how to register for that. That's coming up in August. But we just want to help spread the information about what's even going on in the world right now when it comes to admissions, because there can be a lot of mixed messages out there. And especially if you're the parent of somebody who isn't yet fully immersed in the search and application process, it can feel like a lot just coming at you. So let us help sift through that for you. So like I said, we'll be putting together a webinar. We'll put some information about how to register in our comments, our newsletter, things like that, so you can get registered for that if you're interested. And if you do have a middle school student and you just have some questions, we have the ability to schedule time to answer those for you as well if you'd like some individual support through this stage of the game. So as always, we'd love to help. So reach out, book an inquiry call, whatever we can do to give you the support that you're looking for, we're here to do it.